DOW. Dits on Wrestling.
Hello and welcome to episode 20 of the Dits on Wrestling podcast. I am your host Dits and I will guide you through this celebration of this wrestling podcast. 20 episodes. My God, like the mind boggles. The fact that I could even be asked to get to episode 20 is an achievement, on its own. But it's a landmark. This is a landmark episode. Regardless of how you look at it, 20 episodes. Technically, I've done more than 20 episodes, but we don't count the other stuff, the bonus episodes. We don't count them. It's just the weeklies. That's what we're going by. The serialized episodes. Episode 20. Right now, 20 episodes. And we are in month 5 of this podcast already, and it's growing and growing and growing. And that's all because of you guys, really. This is what I really wanted to say before we got into, anything today. I do this because you guys listen to it, and I do this because you guys enjoy what I put out. There's been people that have been listening to me from the very, very beginning, and, if you're still here from episode 1, then, thank you so much for, being so loyal and, continuing on this podcast journey with me. If you joined, midway through this podcast lifespan, then, again, thank you for being so loyal. Thank you for coming on board. And hell, this is the first episode that you're listening to, and it wouldn't surprise me because of the guest I have on today, but if this is the first episode that you are listening to, I hope that you enjoy it, and I hope that you stick around, because I promise you, big things are coming to this podcast. It is getting better and better and better. I'm not blowing smoke up my own ass with that. I just feel that it's gaining some momentum, and I feel good about that. Before I go into anything, I just wanted to say, a big thank you to everybody who takes time out of their day to listen to this. Whether you listen to the whole episode or even if you just, find bits that you want to listen to, because I have started doing timestamps in the show's notes and on my promotion tweets for the episodes, so you can delve into what you want to listen to. Sometimes listening to a 2-hour podcast is impossible. I find it very, very hard to listen. If I say, for example, listen to Something to Wrestle, Conrad Thompson, and oh my God, my mind is blanked. Who the hell does something? Bruce Pritchard. There we go. Bruce Pritchard. If I listen to their podcast and it's one of their 3.5 hour ones, it takes me about 2 weeks to get through it. No lie. 2 weeks. So I can understand, if people, just pick and choose what they want to listen to. But that's the point in their timestamps. So you can listen to what you want to listen to. But there you go. Episode 20. Now, I was going to do a little jingle, little song like I did for episode 10, but honestly I cannot subject you to that, and I might just save that for episode 25, because that's also a landmark. It's weird. Every 10th episode is like a landmark episode, but then you hit 25 and it's like, oh, it's the 25th anniversary of the podcast. It's weird. Maybe I'm just making that up. I don't know. Maybe I'll do a song for that, but not today. Today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a little throwback to episode 1 of this podcast. Episode 1, I put together a fake commercial. I don't know why I did it. It just seemed like a good idea at the time. And I just wanted to play that snippet from that episode, that commercial from that episode, just so you can kind of see how far this thing has grown since then. So, let's just play that now, and we'll just, if I could see all your faces, I can just imagine that they would just drop, your expressions would just become just completely solemn. But here we go. Is the commercial.
Are you failing to run the gauntlet in the bedroom? Are you feeling frustrated after hitting near fall after near fall after near fall and never quite hitting the 1, 2, 3 between the sheets? If you answered yes to any of those questions and want to turn them to no's, give me a hell yeah! You don't have to be a jobber anymore. Once you form a tag team with WWE Viagra, you'll soon have your hand raised in victory. This little blue meanie is scientifically, statistically, and mathematically proven to give you a push and get you over with your partner. If we ask Christopher Nowinski, former WWE superstar and Harvard graduate, he'd agree, and he's a smart guy. Put your trust in a product that won't turn heel on you today. Head over to WWE Shop where this product is definitely listed and pick up a pack right now for the low price of just
$9.99.
WWE Viagra, giving your love life the Superman punch that it deserves.
Wow, I just listened to that like for the first time in months, like with you guys just then, and oh dear. Oh dear. There you go. It was a bit of fun that I threw together for episode 1, and it was going to be like a continued thing. Every episode I was going to do a new commercial, but I think I peaked with WWE Viagra. I can't beat that. Maybe I could do some kind of commercial for a little bit of the bubbly, but yeah, I'm not going to do that. That's been overdone. That has been overdone now. I'm going to avoid that little thing. But there you go. There's a little throwback to episode 1, and yeah, just take that as you will. There's probably about 6 of you that have just turned around and gone, yeah, I'm not continuing with this anymore. That's we've reached a low point now with this podcast. There you go. That's yeah, just move on. Let's just move on. I have a shameless plug, people, before we move on into the Power Rankings. Yes, the Power Rankings is back, but a shameless plug. I am starting a new series which starts on Monday, the 16th of September, called DOW's Draft That. It is a new draft series where I'll invite guests on and we will draft a number of different topics. It was supposed to be it was actually supposed to be today's episode. That was what today's episode was going to be. Anthony from Anthony and Alex Talk Stuff podcast. Anthony was going to come on from them, and we were going to draft the current roster. Because of the draft that we're getting next month with WWE. That was going to be this episode, the main event of this episode. But my mind works overtime with stuff like this, and once the creative juices start bubbling away, they grow. It grows and grows and grows. And I just decided, you know what? Screw it. I'm turning this into a series. So keep a lookout for that on Monday. That will drop. It won't always be on a Monday. It'll just be as and when I decide to do it. But this one, it seemed like a good time to do it on a Monday. 4 days after this one drops. So keep an eye out for that. Draft That, new series under the DOW umbrella. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Had a lot of good reactions to it. So fingers crossed, it turns out well. But that's Monday. I digress all the time. You know me. I go off on tangents. I've been banging on about episode 20, celebrations, Viagra, blue meanies, and draft that. But no, it's time for some DOW Power Rankings, people. And last week, I tasked you all on the DOW Power Rankings return to rank your WWE performers, your top 5 WWE performers of the week. Now, this included NXT UK TakeOver, Raw, SmackDown Live, 205 Live, NXT, and NXT UK. They were your brands that you could go to rank your top 5 last week it was. Obviously, there's going to be a little bit of confusion because there is overlap now with, what's happened this week, but the actual new window doesn't actually open until today anyway, so it'll make sense at some point, I'm sure. I just make this up as I go along. But I've tallied up everything. Of course, I'd be a pretty terrible power ranker if I didn't do that. So let's just get into the top 10, shall we? At number 10, we had Eric Rowan. As you'll remember, he went on a little rampage against Roman Reigns, cut a promo, and then threw Daniel Bryan through a table. So it was good to see Rowan do something like that, and you guys obviously thought that too. You gave him 10 points in total. Number 9, we have Baron Corbin, also on 10 points. He had a great match against Cedric Alexander, I'm going to say, in the quarterfinals of the King of the Ring tournament. That's the best I've seen Corbin. I thought he was actually going to be a little bit higher, but there is a little bit of Corbin hate out there, you know. But he's our number 9. Number 8, we had Adam Cole BAYBAY, 17 points. I didn't watch NXT last week. I tend to watch them in batches, but I do believe he defended the NXT Championship against Jordan Miles. I might have got that name wrong. I know it's definitely Miles, so shush. But he obviously retained his title in what I have heard was a tremendous match, which is obviously why he's got 17 points this week. Number 7, we have Andrews and Webster, the new NXT UK Tag Team Champions down in NXT UK. 23 points you gave them, and they were involved in, well, you could actually argue that it was the best match at NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff. And for me, obviously, it was Tyler Bate and Walter, just because, yeah, it was amazing. But when I saw this tag match, I didn't think anything could beat it. So I can see why they are ranked so highly. They put in an absolutely tremendous performance. Hometown guys as well. Hometown guys. Number 6, Cesaro, 26 points. Again, another NXT UK TakeOver guy. Cesaro came down to issue an open challenge to a member of the NXT UK roster, answered by Ilya Dragunov. Cesaro was unbelievable. He just proved why we all love him so much. Like, he's so good in the ring, and many people say it's his charisma and mic skills that let him down, but I don't care. Just give the guy a world championship, or just move him down to NXT UK, because he excelled massively, and you all agreed, because he's number 6. Number 5, Sasha Banks, 26 points. What did she do? I think she was in a tag match with Bayley against Becky and other person, probably Natalia. And she swung a chair around for a little bit, and then she did the same on SmackDown. She had a good week. She got 26 points, so there you go. She's on. This is rounding out our top 5. She is number 5. Number 4, and I'm so happy to see him in the top 5. Chad Gable, 35 points. He had an amazing match against Andrade on SmackDown in the King of the Ring tournament and won. Nobody expected that. I didn't expect that, but he did fantastically well, and he will meet Elias, or has, well, I say he will meet Elias. I'm recording this before I see SmackDown, but if you're listening to this, obviously after, which you will, because it drops on Thursday, he has faced Elias this week. I don't know if he's won or not, of course, but number 4, he is with 35 points, and well deserved. Now, we're in the top 3 now. We're in the top 3. So who we got at number 3? It's Bayley. Obviously, she turned heel last week, and it was a great heel turn. Was it solidified with her SmackDown appearance? A little bit. It was a little bit shaky. It was kind of, half babyface, half heel, but who the hell cares? The heel turn was tremendous. You gave her 49 points. 49 points. That's crazy. Back in the old edition of DOW Power Rankings, of course, I've erased all history. That is no longer canon, as they say. This would have actually won, and would have been top in one of the old Power Rankings, so you can just see how highly ranked all this stuff is so far. It's a very good response, by the way, people. Thank you very much. She's number 3, 49 points. Now, the top 2, you can probably guess. Obviously, I've been mentioning NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff throughout this top 10. So you can probably guess who the top 2 are, but who is number 1? I'll give you the number 2. Volta is number 2 with 57 points. He retained his it's not the NXT UK Championship. Jesus Christ. It is the United Kingdom Championship. He retained it against Tyler Bate at NXT UK TakeOver Cardiff, and what a flipping match that was. I loved the absolute hell out of it. He performed fantastically. And that is why he's number 2. That's why he's number 2, 57 points. But somebody performed a little bit better than Volta at NXT UK TakeOver. And that man was Tyler Bate, which is why you've given him 70 points. You've given him 70 points this week. Crazy. And it's well deserved. Somebody will probably point something out, and I'll go out and watch it, and I'll believe them. But this, to me, is the best Tyler Bate has ever been in his entire life. This was unbelievable. What a crazy performance that he put in. He was the fiery underdog. You know, he told a fantastic story when Volta was, absolutely, I'm going to borderline say literally killing him. That's what it seemed like when I was watching it. But he put in the performance of a lifetime. He really did. And I'm going to say that, he won over, a massive crowd. He obviously has a very, very big following, but I think a lot of people were going to be new to NXT UK TakeOver just because it was a takeover event. I think new eyes were on there, and those new eyes are, definitely Tyler Bate fans now. And if you're not, then what the hell are you watching? But there you go. That is the top 10 people. Tyler Bate winning this one this week. But as I speak right now, as you are listening to this, the Power Rankings window is open. And it will be open until Sunday. So there you go. Head over to Twitter and look for my Power Rankings tweet and submit your top 5 for next week's show. But there you go. Tyler Bate wins the DOW Power. I say he wins. He doesn't win anything. He is the number 1 guy. But there you go. That's the Power Rankings for this week. And thank you very much for everybody who submitted. You've all gained yourself a nice little shout out on Twitter. I would do it on here as I used to do, but it would take me about 6 hours to get through the list. So just look out for Twitter, and your shout outs are all on there. But there you go. This is the bit I'm very excited about. I revealed this earlier on in the week. My guest today, this is episode 20, so it's a big deal. So I needed to have a big deal come on to the show, and not only have I got my first wrestler coming onto the show this week, I have Adam Flex Maxted coming on. My wife's favorite wrestler, your wife and girlfriend's favorite wrestler, your boyfriend's favorite wrestler, your husband's favorite wrestler. Like, the man is a stud, as Brainbuster Radio said on my post when I posted it. He's a guy. He's got a great story. He really does, and I'm really looking forward to you guys listening to the chat because he does have a good story. He's grown so much as a performer. He's gone leaps and bounds, and it was really good to hear the story from him. So looking forward to getting into that, or you guys getting into that and seeing your reactions to it. But of course, before we do get into any of that, we need to get into the Raw and Smackdown highlights this week, which I'm changing. I obviously it's going to stay as highlights as it always has been, but I'm only going to do a top 3 highlights from both shows. So Raw will get a top 3 and SmackDown will get a top 3. But I've listed all of my highlights, but I'm going to choose 3 out of them. And then I'll tell you what my other ones are, but I just won't go into depth. But that's the change to the highlights. Nothing major, but it will just mean that the podcast doesn't run, for 26 hours or whatever it is. But let's just get into the highlights now. Here's the top 3 Raw highlights for this week. Steph, lead us in.
Welcome to Monday Night Raw!
Oh, Raw, you continue to deliver every single week. You had a blip 2 weeks ago, granted, but Raw for me now is at that consistent level where it's enjoyable. And I know the other week I said I wouldn't, drag on about how, great Raw is now, but I really enjoy it. I really enjoyed it. And I enjoyed Monday's episode, this week's episode, in Madison Square Garden, WWE's spiritual home. Apparently sold out, but I have seen pictures which kind of argue against that, but that's by the by. So as I said before we segued in, I'm going to do my top 3 highlights from the show. And you cannot have a highlight if Stone Cold is on a show, that cannot be a highlight. Stone Cold Steve Austin was at Raw, and he was the mediator for the contract signing for the Universal title between Braun and Seth Rollins. It's always fun to have Stone Cold, and that's evident by the pop that he got. It was huge. Absolutely huge pop. And you don't really get that with anybody anymore. There's very, very few that, people will go absolutely nuts for. And Stone Cold Steve Austin is one of them. The Rock maybe could get a bigger pop. But Stone Cold, untouchable, really. Even the fact that we'd seen him a couple of weeks ago, he's still got a huge pop. So everyone loves Steve. Come back full time, Steve. Come on. It's never going to happen. But I enjoyed, everything that Stone Cold did on Raw. Just his just his stories before. His tales of Madison Square Garden. Some of his moments there, and just how he was. In the moment, in the contract signing, and ultimately the fact that he stunned AJ Styles as well, and AJ sold it so very well that even that would be a highlight on its own. But like Stone Cold, you are a legend. I love you. There you go. I said it. I love you, Austin. And then of course he came out I'm going to tie this one in. He came in out at the end of the show. Once Cedric picked up the win against AJ Styles, and there was a bit of a beer bash. And it was fun. A beer bash with Stone Cold Steve Austin is always a pleasant sight. There is no debate. And yeah, it was good. It was a good time had by all. Clearly. I wanted to be there. I want to be at a Stone Cold beer bash, but I don't think I'm ever going to have that opportunity because I'm just a lowly podcaster from Plymouth who has no ties to WWE in any way, shape, or form, which a boy can dream. Then we got my second highlight was a match in the evening. These can be matches or they can be moments, throughout the show. It doesn't really matter. It was the 4 horsewomen tag match, Bayley and Sasha Banks versus Charlotte and Becky Lynch. I really enjoyed it. There were a couple of moments in the match that were, they were fluffed, not as crisp and clean, as you'd expect from them. But who cares? It was a really, really fun, good match. What you'd expect from these 4. Like, these 4 have, unrivaled chemistry with each other within that women's division because they've been together, on and off, of course, but they've been together, linked together since their days down in NXT, where they really put women's wrestling back on the map, with their performances down in NXT, whether that be, Charlotte against Natalya or, the Fatal 4-Way they had at one of the TakeOver events, or Bayley versus Sasha Banks, their 2 matches that they had that were absolutely amazing. Becky Lynch's match with Sasha Banks at one of the takeovers. Like, everything they did down in NXT is a foundation for where they are now. And, well, the fact that Becky Lynch and Charlotte main evented WrestleMania this year. Becky's the Raw Women's Champion. Bayley is the SmackDown Women's Champion. Sasha Banks obviously had that little time away, but she's back now, so whatever. She's come back as a heel and is the Sasha Banks that we know and love now. Like, they are all killing it. And, it was really fun to see them in this match together because it all tied in, to how their separate builds are going for both titles. Yeah, it was just enjoyable. I enjoy anything that these 4 women do. So that I could not write that off as a highlight, as a top 3 highlight especially. Another match made my top 3 highlights this week, and it was the triple threat match in the King of the Ring semi-final. A very odd thing to have a triple threat match in a King of the Ring singles tournament where it's a single elimination, but there you go. This is WWE in 2019. They, tear up the rule book and just come out with something completely different and random. I didn't mind it though. I do love a triple threat. I really do. I love the fact that triple threats don't come with count outs. They don't come with disqualifications, any of that kind of stuff. So I'm all for triple threats. I would enjoy Whoa, actually, I'm going to take that back, because that Fatal 4-Way pay-per-view was not the best, and that's probably why they've not done another one. But let's not... Yeah, I take that back. Vince, I know you listen to this podcast. Do not do a pay-per-view centered around triple threats. Do not do it. But I do love a good triple threat. And, this was really, really fun. It was, of course, Cedric Alexander. What are you talking about? It was Ricochet, Samoa Joe, and Baron Corbin. Everybody's favorite, Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin picked up the win. But I tell you what, people hate on Baron Corbin. I say this every week, so I apologize if I'm repeating old stuff. I like Baron Corbin. He's a very effective heel. He's very good at what he does. But the MSG crowd, he got the Cena treatment. Let's go Corbin. Corbin sucks. There's people in that crowd chanting, let's go Corbin. There's people in that crowd that are on Corbin's side. This is his coming out party. Last week, he was great. In this match, he was great. I went for a combination of good and great there. He was great. I wouldn't be surprised if he went on to win this. I think it's going to be... of course, I'm recording this before SmackDown, so, stand by for SmackDown highlights next where I'll cover it. But I do think it's going to be a Corbin and Gable final. And I do think Corbin's going to win. King Corbin, all hail. I'll be interested to see where it goes. I remember saying a couple of weeks ago that out of everybody who was in this tournament, if anybody was going to don this whole King gimmick and run with it, it was going to be Baron Corbin. I hate that King gimmick, by the way. I didn't even like King Booker. It just does nothing for me. King Barrett, ruined the whole Bad News Barrett thing, and... give me King Corbin. Can I get on board with that? No, I cannot get on board with that. I hope it's just a coronation, whatever it is when he wins, or if he wins, and then that's it. It just becomes an accolade that pushes him. It is what it is. If that's what WWE are going to go with, giving us Corbin winning, then so be it. So be it. What can we do? We can do nothing. But I hope that it is a good match at Clash of Champions. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. But there were my top 3 highlights for Raw. I did have a number of highlights, so I'll get into the ones that just missed the cut. War Raiders were a highlight for me. After weeks of squashing jobbers, it's nice to see them enter into something. I don't know if we're going to get a match at Clash of Champions. Probably not, because nothing's been announced. But I hope they do get into a little feud with Gallows and Anderson. That could be fun. Obviously, tying into what happened in their turmoil match last week was a bit of a misstep, because you thought they would have followed through on that, but they didn't. We got that this week instead. But it was refreshing to see the War Raiders do something. Did I call them the Warriors a minute ago? I don't know. It's just nice to see the War Raiders do something of note. What else did we have? The Funhouse, the Firefly Funhouse. I mean, that's always going to be a highlight every single week. It wasn't as amazing as it used to be. You know what I miss? I miss the old set where you had the TV, the door, the window. I miss that, and I think what he's been doing recently. I've enjoyed them all. Don't get me wrong. But I think it takes away, a little bit from, what we were initially introduced to, and that I do miss that set. I really do. Not that it should make a difference, but I think it makes a difference. It's my opinion. I think it makes a difference. It was a good segment. It really was. The whole Stranger Danger thing, talking about, Universal Championship, essentially. That still looks to be on the cards, that he'll go into Hell in a Cell to face whoever wins. Some Stone Cold mentions as well. It was good. It was good, but I just don't think it was on the level of the other stuff he does. But that's not a bad thing, because everything that Bray Wyatt has done since this Funhouse thing came in has been awesome. Like, it really has. So that is not to discredit it or whatever. Like, it was good. It was very, very good. And then I've already actually mentioned this highlight, but the beer bash at the end. I just enjoy SmackDown. I enjoy Stone Cold smashing beers together, especially with groups. It's just a it's just a fun sight, isn't it? Just everyone getting drenched in beer. The crowd love it, and especially when you got Austin's music blaring in the background. It's always a treat. It's always fun. But there you go. They were my highlights for Raw this week. Again, it was a really good show. There's one I didn't put in here. Hold the phone. Rey Mysterio versus Grand Metalik was actually, a really, really good exhibition match. It just missed out on my top 3, and it completely missed out on my memory as well. So that was a really good match. Rey Mysterio was on fine form. Grand Metalik showed, what he is capable of, when given a little bit of a spotlight. So I actually really hope that we get these exhibition matches, more often, because you look back at Cena's United States Championship Open challenges and the people that he was against, he elevated massively. That's why that whole thing was so successful. And now we have an opportunity potentially, if this is what they decide to run with, if we keep doing these exhibition style matches where we get stuff that we wouldn't usually get. We get not even feuds. We just get matches that exist outside of feuds. That nothing has to come of it. You can have baby faces against baby faces, heels against heels. Whatever. It's just a match that we really want to see. And I think this is. I don't think anybody knew they wanted to see it until they actually saw it advertised and went, "Hang on a minute, this is actually going to be really, really good." And it kind of makes you go, "Well, let's throw Kalisto at Rey. Let's throw Lance Dorado at him. Let's just throw the Lucha House Party at him." And I guarantee each one of those matches would be great, because they are all talented. They've just been lumbered together in this terrible little gimmick that I do not enjoy. The kids love it though. So who am I to judge? But that was also a highlight. I do apologize for that. I think I would have. I'd have an angry mob coming at me for completely missing that one out, but that was definitely a highlight. Just didn't make my top 3. It would have been if this was a top 4, it would have been number 4. So there you go. But that was my Raw highlights for the week, and of course, every week I delve into your Raw tweets to see what you guys thought of the show this week. So here we go. Who we got? Cincy Fanzone said, "Glass shatters, crowd erupts, goosebumps every time." Absolutely. As soon as you're exactly right, the glass shatters, my hairs on my arm just completely stick up. And there's only a few people that can really give me that reaction. If The Rock, if that happens, goosebumps. Undertaker's entrance every single time, goosebumps. It's a rare feeling with superstar entrances, but Stone Cold absolutely is one of those people that can give you that reaction. Incredible stuff. Call It in the Ring Media said about the contract signing, "This was fun to watch. Braun Strowman has progressed well in the ring and on the mic, and we feel his time is coming up to actually win a championship." I honestly don't think that they're going to go that way at Clash of Champions. It's a weird one with Braun, because Braun he's had so many opportunities now to win the big one, and every single time he's gone into one of those matches, we thought, this is it. This is the moment that he's going to win it. Because at that time, whenever that match was, I think he genuinely deserved a win at that point, whether it was against Lesnar or I think one of them was maybe against Reigns, I think. Regardless, any time he was in that Universal title picture, he deserved to be there. But I think now, I think a lot of people have soured a little bit on Braun Strowman. I still like him. I just don't think he's at his peak level that he was. But that's not to say that he won't pump out a great match at Clash of Champions against Seth. I'll be interested to see what happens. If Braun wins, I'll put it this way, I won't be sad about it. He's had a bad time around WrestleMania, so maybe this would make up for that, giving him a Universal title run, and just see how he does. Because you are right, he's got better in the ring, from back in the Wyatt family days. And yeah, on the mic, yeah, he's getting better as well. So, absolutely. We'll see what happens. Like I said, I wouldn't be against a Braun Strowman Universal title win. Brandon Nightmare said, "Is it bad? I really want Baron Corbin to be King of the Ring." No, it's not. I can see that people starting to think of Corbin as like a guilty pleasure. But trust me, he has been good for a very long time, but just people aren't noticing it because there just is that habit that we're all in where we just hate Baron Corbin. Hate the character, of course, hate the character, but, as a wrestler, I think he has improved like a lot, since his even from his time as GM on Raw, when we really, even I didn't like him back then, but I knew, as a wrestler, he was, he was getting there, he was advancing. So I actually want Corbin to win as well. I would be happy with Gable winning if, that's where it goes, but yeah, I'd be happy with Corbin winning. Wig_MUFC said that women's tag just got better and better throughout. It was one of those crescendo matches where, there is just that really good build that gets there, and then all the action just comes at once towards the back end, and it was fun. It like I said, it had its moments where there were a couple of botches. It wasn't as flowing as it could have been with those moments, but it's whatever. By the by, it was good. It was a good match. Matthew Morris says Cedric Alexandra said, Jesus fucking Christ, I cannot speak today. Cedric Alexander equals future United States champion. You know what? I can see it. I can actually see AJ Styles dropping the title to Cedric at Clash of Champions. There you go. There's my prediction. Jack, who is at No More Words 97, seeing Rey Mysterio in the best shape he's been in the last 10 years physically and putting on incredible matches in 2019 fills me with joy. My childhood, the greatest of all time, the GOAT. You could argue that. His series against Andrade this year was absolutely phenomenal. Really, really was. Both of them was. His SmackDown Live ones and then on Raw with his little, I think, did he have 3 matches against him? I think it was. Each of them very, very good. And then he faced Metalik this weekend. It's like watching Ray in his prime sometimes. Like you kind of forget that he isn't that youngster anymore. He isn't that guy who can fly all over the place. But the thing is, he is that guy that flies all over the place. It's a strange one. Like he just hits you and he slaps you in the face with this kind of stuff. You don't expect him to still deliver on this level, and yet he is every single week. But there you go. There are your tweets for Raw this week. And as always, again, every single week, I don't supply, you guys supply a voice clip for your thoughts on Raw. And I've got a Badlands podcast clean sweep. Last week I had Paul on from the Badlands podcast. And this week I have his co-host, Mags, who will give his take on Monday Night Raw.
Hi Dits and the whole Dits universe. Your man Dits has asked me, Mags, to provide a few points on this week's Raw. Yeah, that's right, he's asked me, somebody who doesn't watch the main roster WWE product. So, here we go. Usually I would have relied on the likes of Speeds and the Benchmark for information on what happened on the show, but unfortunately they didn't produce a show either, so I've actually had to watch some main roster wrestling. Wow. So let's go with my thoughts on the show. Well, firstly I want to mention the elephant in the room. There was a lot of talk that this was going to be an absolute damp squib of a show due to having low crowd attendance, but from what I saw, whether it's camera tricks or whether it's some other reason, it seemed like there were quite a packed house there. So that was one good point I'd like to say. anytime Austin shows up on WWE product is a good time for me, and Austin sharing memories of stunning Vince for the first time in MSG and the Survivor Series match he had with Bret Hart really brought back some good memories. I'm really enjoying the push that the OC are getting. I think Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows were being wasted by WWE, and it's good to see that they're being pushed in a more prominent role. The Connor's Cure Superstar segment with Roman Reigns actually brought a tear to old man Mags' eye. Any day that we get the Firefly Funhouse is an absolute good day. And just remember, people, strangers are just friends that you haven't made yet. I really enjoyed Baron Corbin stealing the victory in the King of the Ring triple threat match with Samoa Joe and Ricochet. I'm really enjoying Cedric Alexander's rise to prominence recently, and I think he put in some great performances in the matches that he was in on the show against AJ and the OC. And of course, we got the four horsewomen back in the ring together, albeit on opposite sides of the ring. A couple of little downers from this match. I would say I don't particularly like the fact that it's always Bayley that seems to take the fall. I understand that she's the weakest one in terms of crowd reaction out of the four, but I still don't think it should always fall to Bayley to be the fall guy or girl. And the other point is, it's pretty weird seeing Charlotte Flair as the face in this programme. I think she's probably the best in the group at being a heel, and I would have liked to have seen her continue that role, I suppose. But all in all, it seemed like it was a very, very good Raw. It's actually made me quite excited to going into Clash of Champions this weekend. Anyway, thanks for this opportunity, Dits. If you'd like to check out more of my content, give me a follow on Twitter at DAJKirkby, or check out one of my podcasts. I've got the While We Watch podcast, where I talk to wrestling fans about their history. I've got the Badlands podcast, where me and my partner Paul Toller, aka at Raincounter, we get a guest every week and we discuss Mount Rushmores of wrestling. Or if you don't want to be bothered with this fake farting palaver and you want some real farting, me and my son Carlos do a UFC podcast called 5 Rounds. So go and check them out, go and give me a follow. Thanks for listening.
Jesus Christ, talk about plugging yourself. I'm joking. Mags is a great guy. He's a great guy. Badlands, by the way, is a very original wrestling podcast, but it's very enjoyable as well. I will be appearing on that in the next couple of weeks as well, which is going to be a lot of fun. And Why We Watch as well is also a good podcast where you can learn kind of the backgrounds behind like your favorite independent podcasters and people who follow wrestling Twitter accounts, all that kind of stuff. Really good stuff. So thank you very much, Mags. And I also love the fact that I've made you sit and watch a Monday Night Raw so you could just supply this voice clip. But you enjoyed it, so there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I've made you excited for Sunday's pay-per-view, so that is my gift to you, Mags. That is my gift to you. But there you go. That was Mags with his thoughts on Raw. And, well, it's time for SmackDown Live highlights, isn't it? So, Shane, take it away.
Welcome everyone to SmackDown Live!
I'm very much on the fence with SmackDown Live this week. I just don't know if I completely enjoyed it. I didn't hate it, and I didn't dislike it. It's just something was missing there for me, and the highlights are for me are like really evident of that. Obviously, I now have this new rule of doing a top 3, but truth be told, I only have 3, so it kind of speaks volumes to me. And I've always found this with SmackDown. Like sometimes I kind of go away from them thinking, yeah, it was the better show of the week, but for some reason it's just less highlights. But I guess there's an hour difference between SmackDown and Raw, so maybe that's why. But anyway, highlight number 1, I've gone with Eric Rowan and Roman Reigns, their little brawl that they had. I mean, the promo beforehand, before all that kicked off, it was okay for what it was, but Rowan's not exactly the best mic guy that WWE have on their payroll, so, we kind of forgot about that and just went straight into this brawl, and, there was intensity in it, they were kind of selling the whole feud, but I can't quite shake the feeling that this whole storyline has been a bit of a waste. Not necessarily a waste, because, Rowan is getting elevated, into this spot, which is a good thing. You're giving somebody else an opportunity to shine. Buddy Murphy has been, linked to this whole storyline at the beginning, at least anyway, and he got a chance to shine, against Roman Reigns and then Daniel Bryan. So it's not been, a complete disaster, but the actual storyline itself has just been like really disappointing, really off key, and I'm hoping that this is the end of it at Clash of Champions. But as a setup to that actual match of Clash of Champions, the brawl did everything that you could hope that it would. And Eric Rowan got the upper hand at the end by flinging a camera at Roman Reigns. So WWE like a momentum shift. So it looks like Roman Reigns is going to pick up the win at Clash of Champions, which I think we were all expecting anyway. But yeah, it was a solid little brawl, and I don't really have that many complaints. Roman threw a fan at Roman as well, so there was that. Bit different, but it was okay. It was okay. And it kind of leads into my second highlight of the evening, which was another brawl, but this one wasn't broken up. It's weird. Like, why would you break up one brawl but then leave the other one to continue? Strange. Kofi's segment with Randy Orton, their brawl. I mean, that is a highlight, but I actually quite enjoy Kofi's promo leading up to it. Kind of, retelling the story of, his time in Madison Square Garden and, replaying the footage as well. And I think the thing that was, quite enjoyable about this, it was a throwback to that whole thing that happened with, unfortunately, the table that he set Orton up, broke before they could do anything with it. So, but thankfully, Kofi fought on his feet and he picked up another table, and then they managed to complete the spot, which harkened back to. I don't even know how long ago that was. Kofi probably did say, I'm going to guess like 2011. I'm going to go with that. 2011. That's probably wrong, but it's a long time ago, at least. A long time ago. But it was cool. It was cool to, have that little bit of flashback to this feud, because that's what this whole feud has been. It's been a flashback to, previous stuff that they've done, and then they've just kind of built on it. I was surprised that Big E and Woods and, the Revival as well weren't involved at all on SmackDown this week, considering they've got a title match at Clash of Champions, and of course they are both linked to Orton and Kofi, so that was a bit strange, but, I enjoyed it, and, I am a fan of Randy Orton, I'm a fan of Kofi's, and I've enjoyed their feud so far, apart from that blip, which was their SummerSlam match, but, I don't know, I kind of forgot about that. Raised it from my memory, so this is coming across pretty well. I'm looking forward to their match at Clash of Champions, and hopefully they can do something a little bit different than they did at SummerSlam and have a decisive finish for a start. That'd be nice. A nice decisive finish, no DQs. My third and final highlight, Chad Gable's King of the Ring win. Like, I couldn't really look at anything else. Chad Gable is not somebody I actually thought would make the final of the King of the Ring tournament. I can't remember who he was against in round one. I don't know. But, he bested Andrade on the way. Was he against Buddy Murphy? It might have been Buddy Murphy. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's made the final. That's the most important thing. And I did not expect him to do it, and I don't think many people did. But here we are. Chad Gable. He's won every match he's been in. He was against Shane this week. That was a bit. Well, it was expected. As soon as Elias went down with that injury, it was kind of like the logical way to go is to insert Shane in there, because he's done it before. With the Best in the World tournament or the World Cup, whatever it was. And, now he's going to do it again to, try and steal a second tournament victory. But, alas, Gable he picked up 2 wins over him, really, because Shane changed it into a 2 out of 3 falls match. But the actual match itself, it was a Shane match. You can kind of take it or leave it, but it had the shenanigans of Owens, and it was okay for what it was. I enjoyed it, but ultimately the payoff is Chad Gable is in the finals of the King of the Ring against Corbin. I can't see anything other than a Corbin win, to be honest. It would be amazing if Gable could win, because I don't think anybody would expect it, just as nobody expected him to reach the final. But WWE and Vince seem pretty high on Corbin, and that looks like the way it's going to go. But either way, I think the final could have been better. I do. However, it's been a showcase. This whole tournament has been really enjoyable. So I'm more on the this is good rather than this is a complete failure. So, but there you go. That shows SmackDown for you. From my perspective, anyway, my highlights are done already. I did have some honorable mentions, but they were pretty small. The Undertaker coming out, the Undertaker just being around in general, is always deemed a highlight, but he didn't really do much. He didn't really build any feuds going against Clash of Champions. He just kind of gave his little piece about Madison Square Garden itself, and then he had his little thing with Sammy, gave him a choke slam after taking a lot of verbal shite from him, and it was what it was. It didn't pop me. It didn't. I mean, the entrance will always incite goosebumps every single time, without a doubt. I said that earlier on in the episode when I was talking about Austin. Undertaker is one of the entrances that will get that effect on you. But his actual, stuff in the ring, I could, if it didn't happen on the show, it wouldn't have been missed. I'll put it that way. And then my only other one is Heavy Machinery looks really, really good in their squash match. And I've said now for a while now that I do like Heavy Machinery, and I think they are a very underrated tag team. But you can. When you start putting people against jobbers or enhancement talent, you can kind of see something building. Like, this will build to something. It's happening with the Viking Raiders over on Raw. They've squashed like 6,000 jobbers to this point, and now they're moving into a meaningful program. And hopefully it'll be the same for Heavy Machinery. It just won't take 3 months to get there. But I'm a fan of Heavy Machinery. I thought they looked good. They're a fun team. They are a fun team, but they can be credible as well. They can be credible, and that's the most important thing, to have that balance of comedy and fun, but also being able to actually go in the ring and actually turn it on when you need to. And I think they are more than capable of that. Especially Tucker. Tucker is a very athletic big man. And it kind of you can draw comparisons to the Viking Raiders in terms of physique and how they move around the ring. It's very impressive stuff. Like, I can't do, half the stuff that they can do, and I'm not even their size. So, fair play to them, But that's really SmackDown, guys. I don't really have that much else to really go off. In those Miz Andrade, and Bailey had a match against Ember, and then there was the horrendous Mandy Rose promo. But the less said about that, the better. I thought we were past this whole, women are ugly, or you're fat, Kevin Owens, and racism towards Nakamura. Like, I thought we were past that, but obviously not. It's something that still very much exists. I mean, if you go back and watch that, because I was curious to see what Sonya's reaction was. Like, she kind of was like, "Oh, I can't believe they've given you this to say." You can kind of see it on her face. So just go back and check that out, because it is definitely her actual thoughts are written all over her face. And that's one thing I was keeping an eye on, because I was like, I'm not going to listen to Mandy, she's talking shite. So I'm just going to see what Sonya's actual reaction is. But I don't think that has a place in WWE these days, unless it's meaningful, and actually does something. But even then, it's cringe, very, very cringe. Wasn't a fan. But yeah, there you go. That was SmackDown. It was, like I said, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great either. Hopefully, the post Clash of Champions show will redeem itself. And I never thought I would say that Raw is the better show at the moment, but it is. I'll be honest, it really is. But there you go. And of course, there are tweets to be read about SmackDown and what you guys thought of SmackDown. So let's just flash those up, shall we? Legit Viper 2 said, if you told me Chad Gable was going to make it to the final of the King of the Ring, I would have slapped you silly. And I think, like I said, that nobody... sorry, I'm just throwing my phone there. Nobody thought that he would actually get to that point. And I'm pretty chuffed because I am a big Gable fan, and hell, like, if he wins this, that's a push. And hopefully that push comes like without the shorty stuff, because that stuff is really annoying me as well. I mentioned Mandy's ugly stuff, but that is something that's annoying me as well, because you should really be focusing on the fact that Gable is unreal in the ring. And maybe if he stood up for himself a little bit more instead of looking like a wet flannel, and maybe a little bit different. But hell, that's where we are with it. LV Olseto, hashtag King Corbin. We've had 2 main event worthy brawls tonight. Yeah, and that's why they were both highlights for me. Like, both brawls were different from each other. There was some fresh spots that we haven't seen with brawls for a while. With the Rowan and Reigns one, with the fan throw-in and the camera interaction. So yeah, I do agree with that. Like, you could have finished the show with either of those, and you wouldn't really got any complaints. So yeah. Wrestling section said, does everyone remember how absolutely perfect, in capitals, SmackDown Live was when it first started? So of course I think they're disappointed about SmackDown. Either this episode or just SmackDown recently, but you are absolutely correct. SmackDown Live was unbelievable when it first moved over to that iteration of it, and I do miss it. They were the golden period. Well, the golden periods for SmackDown are back in the Ruthless Aggression era, but in terms of like the modern era of WWE, like, look no further than like the first year and a half of SmackDown Live. It was great. Chris, which is at CTWigger96, said, no matter how many times I see The Undertaker's entrance, I'll always get those goosebumps. And there you go. I said that when I talked briefly about it. It really is one of those things. Like, there aren't many people who can give you those goosebumps, but The Undertaker's entrance is certainly one of them. Especially that gong right at the start. The gong is what does it. Brian MUFC 82 said, Owens is fired. Still came off like a scrub there, but now he's fired. There's no reason why he shouldn't just keep turning up with nothing to lose and making Shane's life hell instead of being a good little employee. Owens was on fire when he, kind of turned babyface and, he did his pipe bomb and he started going against, authority and Shane. And the crowd were lapping it up. He was over as hell. And then they met at SummerSlam. He won. And you kind of thought that was it. Then we move in past it. But no, we are still in the midst of a Shane and Kevin Owens feud. And now Kevin Owens is fired. But yeah, I think the only way... Because recently he's been a bit of a sad sag. And storyline-wise, you can see that, he doesn't want his... he doesn't want his family to suffer because of this massive fine. So, he'll do whatever it takes to kind of scratch it off. So it does make sense from a storyline point of view. Don't get me wrong. It just hasn't been hitting the right notes for me and maybe for some other people as well. But you are right. If he has nothing to lose now, so hell, get him to show up and just, come through the crowd and just lay out Shane just every single week until he gives him his job back. And that's what we need. We do need a babyface Owens at the moment because I think he's doing really well with it. But we need that edge as well. And I think if that is what he ends up doing, he comes back and he's kind of making his presence known. Then I think that will boost Kevin Owens back up to where he was only a month ago. So fingers crossed with that. But those are the tweets this week. And usually, of course, there would be a voice clip for this week. But I've had technical difficulties getting it attached to this episode, which is a shame because I was looking forward to it. But it was going to be Lone Lee. He's been a follower of mine for a couple of years now. Actually, he crops up every now and then, and after I thought I need a voice clip for SmackDown this week, and I'll look for Lee. But unfortunately, he hasn't. The file hasn't worked, which is a big shame. But I will get him back on for Raw on Raw this Monday. So we will get a voice clip in next week. So. It's not all doom and gloom, but we do have a gap where we would usually have a voice clip right now, which is a shame. However, silver lining, it means we get to my interview with Adam Flex Maxted just that little bit sooner. So honestly, I would love to, sit here and spiel on for 2 minutes about how awesome it is, and it is a great chat. It really is a fun chat. He goes in. It kind of lays out his whole career, to this point, and it's not until you actually hear it that you kind of realize how far he's come in such a short space of time. It's very, very impressive. But I'm not going to hold you back from this chat anymore. So let's just get into it. So let's segue in. Here we go. Enjoy. Joining me now is a first for this show, and I am absolutely chuffed to have him on. My wife is absolutely thrilled for reasons why I can't quite work out. But this is huge for the show, and very appreciative to have him on. My guest today is Adam Flex Maxted. Welcome to the show, buddy. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, it's an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. So the reason why I was kind of shying away from getting wrestlers on the show, but then I kind of started questioning why that was the case. But the thing with getting wrestlers on is I think every wrestler has a different story to tell. Every wrestler has a unique way into how they started things. Everybody's different. It could be somebody in the Reach Wrestling Academy here in Plymouth. It could be yourself, or it could be somebody like Kenny Omega. Everyone has a different story, and I'm very, very curious to hear about yours. So, what was your first exposure to professional wrestling?
It was back. I was in foster care when I was younger, growing up, and the couple that looked after me, the guy would go and visit his mum, and I remember they probably put on, it must have been WCW to obviously just keep me occupied, and I just remember being mesmerized by it and having the figures and everything as a kid, and just fell in love with it from the first time I saw it.
I think that's kind of I'd say we were about a similar age, and I think most kids around that time, especially late 90s when WCW and WWF at the time were really in their boom periods. You couldn't find a kid at the age of 5 or 6 who didn't watch wrestling. It was exactly, it was a rarity. Now obviously with that comes my mom, dad, or you're talking to your mates I want to be a wrestler when I'm older. But of course that kind of falls down the wayside as you get older. But of course, now you are a wrestler. At what point did you go, this is what I want to do?
Yeah, but, well, like you say, it did as well for me. I grew out of it. So, obviously, like most kids, you go to school, you want to be cool in schools. You don't want to admit that you watch wrestling and stuff. And, I actually just, in my teens and stuff, I played football. My main focus was football. I loved football, still do. But yeah, wrestling wasn't really a big thing. I would have seen it occasionally, maybe. And back then as well, we didn't have Sky and stuff when I was growing up. So the only time I would ever have seen WWE and stuff was if I saw the WWE Experience, which was the recap show that they did on a Sunday on Sky One, and that was the only thing. That was literally the only time I got to sit in front of it and just be again just sat in front of the TV for the full hour recap. But as I grew older, I grew out of it and was just playing football and stuff. Started going to the gym when I was 16, 17, and then I started doing summers abroad when I was 18, right up, 18, 19. Then when I was 20, I moved to Abu Dhabi. I worked there as a personal trainer for a year, and then at the age of 21, 22, I was working in Marbella doing summers abroad, and again, didn't really think anything of wrestling. Like, I was still a fan in a way. I would see it again, maybe on Sky Sports or being advertised, and we just kind of be like, oh, that's cool. They're still showing wrestling. But it wasn't until I remember I was working in Marbella in the summer of 2014, and I was like on the Sun website because I always wanted to just keep in touch of what was happening back in the UK, like news-wise and stuff when I was working in Spain. So, and then I saw that 2 wrestlers had been signed to WWE Developmental, and that was Joe Cabray and his girlfriend Rachel. And obviously Joe Cabray, he runs OTT now, very successfully back in Ireland. But like I just remember sitting in this cafe being like, what? Like, people from Ireland are getting signed to WWE. I was like, how is that even possible? Because in my head it was like you had to be over 7 foot and from America, like this big massive person, and I just never really thought it was a possibility. And I kind of was blown away by sort of reading their article, the fact that they were just 2 people that were kind of wrestling. I mean, I didn't even know Ireland had a wrestling scene. This is how out of the loop that I was, So I kind of did more research when I was working that summer and found a wrestling school in Belfast, and actually found a school that Joe was running himself. By the time that I finished my summer and was moving home, because within, I think, maybe, I'm not sure how long he was in developmental for, but he had moved back to Ireland and was coaching again. So I set this whole plan up that as soon as I got home I was going to start training, and I started getting buses from Belfast like down to Dublin, which is like 2 hours there, 2 hours back up, and like Joe taught me how to take my first bump and everything. And I really wasn't training or wrestling that long until the Love Island opportunity came up, which I'm sure you want to talk about.
To be honest, I wasn't actually going to go too in depth with it, but then I kind of thought before we start recording, like, really, it is a pivotal part of your wrestling journey. So it wouldn't be right to really just brass over it. Yeah. So how did that even come about? Did you apply, or did they kind of approach you?
No, this guy just added me on Facebook one day, I remember, and I saw that he was TV casting or something. So I accepted him and we got talking and stuff. And Take Me Out was one of the big shows back then, so they actually wanted me to come in and do that, and I went for an audition, and like there was 2 guys in the room, and I had to pretend to walk down the lift and come out and pretend to like be talking to and it was just so cheesy and like embarrassing, honestly. Like, I was just in a hotel conference room with 2 random fellas, and so, but again, like, they liked me and they said, oh, we'll keep in touch. And they rang me back and they said, yeah, we want to take things further with you. And the more I thought about it, I was just like, you know what, maybe this isn't the best move. So again, I didn't hear from them for a while. I was wrestling in Ireland, but I was maybe getting, 1 or 2 matches every couple of months, and just not enough repetitions in the ring, or not, to keep progressing and keep development that you need. You need to just be in the ring consistently. And not that I was getting frustrated or anything, but I was just kind of like, people would be giving me feedback. And then by the time I was in the ring again, I was making the same mistakes because I just wasn't getting the opportunity to just like, okay, and then like within a couple of days or the next weekend apply what I'd been taught, and like, so I just felt like just frustrated, because back then, this would have been 2015, towards the end of 2015, and the Irish wrestling scene really wasn't big then. The OTT was only starting to come, together and stuff. So then I got contacted again by the casting, and they said, there's this Love Island show if you're interested. And again, I thought, right, okay. So I filled in an application that they wanted me to, and some questions, and they sent them off to England, and the producers liked my answers. So then they flew me over to England, and I met the producers. And, again, I had like an on-screen kind of interview, and they liked me there. And the show had already started, and they said, we might try and get you as one of the people that come in later in the show, but nothing's promised. And I was like, okay, cool. And this is an important thing as well, because before I agreed to do any of this, like, I sent Joe the whole like contract and everything, because I've always trusted Joe's opinion, and like I respect his. I always felt that Joe's looked out for me and stuff throughout my whole career. He's been a guy that's known me from the very start. So I sent him the whole thing, and I said, do you think this would be a good idea? It might get my name out there. And truthfully, he was like, it could be a risk, because you don't know how they're going to betray you on TV, or blah blah blah. But obviously, I got on, and as soon as that show finished, my email, it was just crazy. Things went from, not really wrestling very often to all of a sudden having emails about people wanting to book me here, there, and everywhere, all over the UK and stuff. And it was kind of like sink or swim. And I mean, I look back and, I was not ready for the matches or the opportunities that I was getting, but obviously promoters thought, oh, let's try and capitalize on, the fact that this guy's been on the biggest TV show in the UK. Let's bring him in, maybe he's going to sell tickets. And back then I was just grateful for the opportunities, and I was like, oh, this is what I wanted to do the show for. It's paying off. This is great, but I didn't really know better back then. But then I look back now and I'm like, yeah, I was not ready to be in some of the matches that I was in against the opponents. But obviously I wouldn't change anything. I'm 3 years on now. I'm still as busy as ever in the UK, and I feel like, yeah, it's been a crazy journey. And I always believed that I was going to break into the UK scene. I believed in myself. I believed that I had the potential. I just, obviously the show skyrocketed things and made things happen a lot quicker for me.
I mean, sometimes having that, you've just been thrown in the deep end, can kind of actually do you the world of good. So you've probably come away with that, like, with some like incredible lessons.
Yeah.
So I mean, did you? I mean, I know, like, I saw a poster in St. Ives in Cornwall. I went away with the wife for a little bit of a weekend away, and I saw you on a poster. It was the first time I'd seen you since Love Island, because my wife got me into Love Island because she said, there's a wrestler on the show, and I was like, behave, is there a wrestler on the show? Like, so she said, no, he's in WWE. And I was like, he's not somebody from WWE on the show. Come on. I came down, I was like, so who is he? And she went, oh, it's Adam Maxted. And I was just like, he's not in WWE. But I've watched Love Island ever since. Like, just because you had that tag of, being a wrestler, it just piqued my interest. And I'm sure that was the case for, maybe there was promoters around that kind of went, hang on a minute, there's a wrestler in this show that is like literally blowing up the UK at the moment. Like, we need to like start taking notice of this guy. And then of course the offers started flooding in for you. So with leaving Love Island, like, do you think there was like a stigma attached to you coming from like a reality TV background?
Yeah, absolutely. And to be honest, I feel like there still is. There's a lot of promotions and shows, that I still haven't wrestled on in the UK, and a lot of fans that haven't seen me. So to a lot of them, I'm sure that I'm still just, oh, you're just that guy from reality TV. And, it, not that it used to get to me, because I'm very strong-minded and I don't let people's opinions, like, I work hard. I still train weekly up here at Rampage's school with NGW, in Newcastle, even though I technically am wrestling like full time. And there are a lot of wrestlers that start wrestling full time and they think, oh, okay, I don't really need to train anymore because I'm wrestling. But I still, to this day, continue to train because I know I still have a lot to learn and a lot to improve on, and I have the drive and the ambition to do that. But I feel like, yeah, fans, I probably will throughout my whole career will always have that reality TV stigma, and it doesn't bother me because at times it's an advantage. I can play off it at times. I can, and obviously you look at someone like The Miz and stuff who had the same kind of, entrance into wrestling and how big of a star he's gone on to be. So I feel like this day and age, people are always going to have an opinion anyway, especially with social media. Everyone thinks their opinion matters. Everyone thinks that just because they tweet something that it's the gospel, and you just got to get on with it. If you listen to everyone's opinion and stuff, then you probably wouldn't get anywhere. So I just kind of, I'm open to criticism. Like, you know what I mean? If someone thinks that there's someone I need to work on, improve on, I'm open to criticism. But the fact that there's still probably a stigma with me and my name that I'm the Love Island guy, or and it just motivates me more to work hard and to improve and to like prove a point every time I'm in the ring, that like the kind of, not that they're haters or anything, but almost like anyone that sees me for the first time, that they're kind of like, oh, okay, maybe he's not just this guy from TV, that, he actually can go in the ring and, he is improving. And, I feel like the fact that 3 years on, I'm still one of the most, like one of the busiest guys in the UK, and that, the fact that it's not like I just had a six month wave of bookings and then all of a sudden it's all dwindled out. The fact that I'm still as busy as ever kind of proves, that point.
So I'm glad you brought up that, if people come and see you, like that, maybe seeing you wrestle will change their opinions. Because I mean, when I was doing the research into this before we started talking, like every like negative comment I saw was always linked to Love Island. It was just like he's from reality TV, like he's never going to make it, blah blah blah. Harsh criticism, like completely unfounded, and probably people that don't even watch wrestling, they're just on there to troll. But I watched you in Plymouth for 5 Star Wrestling, and that was the first time I'd ever seen you wrestle. And I remember sat there, I was like, oh, Adam Maxted's on the show. I remember him from Love Island. And I watched you wrestle. I think you were teaming with Charlie Sterling, yeah. And were you against Chris Masters and Carlito?
Yes.
See, that must have, I mean, that's insane in its own right.
Yeah.
But I remember watching the match and I'm going, like, he's actually, like, pretty good. Like, considering, like, he's only been doing this for, I think, like, maybe 2 years at that time.
That would have been 2, yeah.
So, like, I was definitely, I was never that guy who was, like, negative, you know, oh, he's from reality TV, because, you know, I'm not a dick. But, but I did see you and I thought, well, there you go. Like, he's followed through on it. Like, he's still training. Like you said, he's still training now. And, you know, he did put on a good match that night. I enjoyed the hell out of it. So,
and I actually cringe still sometimes, because obviously those matches are still on YouTube, and I kind of watch them back and I'm like, oh, you know, like I can see the things that I'm doing wrong and like the mistakes that I'm making back then. So it's kind of cool to then see the progress that I've been making and stuff, because, you know, although it's like, you know, although the match was okay, but like obviously I'm even a year on now, and I've wrestled 2 summers now on, you know, the Butlins camps, and that has been, you know, phenomenal. Like, there's some people that like kind of poo-poo wrestling on the camps, or they think, oh, it's just, you just wrestle in front of kids. But honestly, those 2 summers that I've just finished basically wrestling 6 days a week for the past 6 weeks this summer, and what that has done just for like your confidence and just your movement in the ring and just everything is just, you know, so hopefully you'll see me again soon, and you'll see even more improvement from then, you know.
And I don't get why people knock these Butlins shows, because I saw a WWE live event at Butlins 2 years ago, and the fans are like incredible, like, and it's a very positive atmosphere as well. So it does wonders for, you know, the performers in front of them as well. So like, it's just completely devoid of negativity.
And you think some of the names that have wrestled as well at Butlins and done, you know, like Daniel Bryan and Sheamus and Drew and, you know, Wade Barrett, and like some of the biggest stars that are in WWE today have done, you know, they've done that route. So it's kind of, again, that's real motivating, the fact that you're doing the same thing that these guys have gone on to become big stars and stuff. So,
and is that the dream for you, like hitting you know, the height? Obviously that is the dream, I think, of any wrestler, to hit the heights of, you know, mainstream, you know, wrestling companies. But is WWE the goal for you, or like, now that there's alternatives and stuff out there, like with AEW or Impact, like, would you kind of look at those avenues?
Yeah, you know, I mean, obviously would be open to offers or, you know, opportunities there, but I think any wrestler deep down that says that they don't dream of, you know, working for the 3 letters WWE, you know, it's like, are you being fully truthful? And I understand people have got there and then they haven't had a good experience, or it hasn't gone exactly how they thought it might, and that might, you know, tarnish how they see things. And that absolutely, you know, that's everyone's got their own journey and their own experience. But, you know, until I go there, and if I got there and experienced it for myself, you know, hopefully positively, I couldn't say that I don't want to work for WWE. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and obviously talking about WWE, you of course had a WWE tryout. 2017, is that right?
Yep.
So how did that go? Like, what was that experience like for you?
That was, again, I remember, so I did a show with, and you know, Big Demo?
Yes.
So we did a show together down in, where would it have been? I'm trying to think. What was the company? Dan Reed runs the company. I can't remember. But basically we did a show together, me and Big Demo, and we spent the night staying over, and then out of the blue one day he messaged me and just said, hey, I've been speaking to William Regal about you, could he have your information? I was like, what? Like, in my head I was like, am I reading this right? So I sent him all this information and then didn't hear anything, and then a couple of weeks later Big Demo messaged me again and says, hey, Regal's lost all your information, can you send it again? So I was like, oh great, right, well they're clearly not that interested, if you know but I sent it, and I remember I was heading with my girlfriend to my first ever WrestleMania, was literally heading to the airport, and I got the email through saying that, you know, you've been invited to WWE tryout. So in my head I'm blown away, because I'm like, right, I'm flying out to America for the first time to watch WrestleMania, and then a couple of weeks after that I'm actually going to have a tryout for the company. And I was just like, what is life? I was like, this is fantastic. Obviously nervous, obviously knew a lot of the guys at the tryout. They were speaking to me and they were like, look, if they're going to sign anyone, they're probably going to sign you, Adam, because you're not that experienced. You look how you look. You're so new to this. So, you know, and not that I had it in my head, but, you know, I had people saying to me like, oh, they're probably going to see you, snap you up straight, take you straight away. You're going to fly to Orlando and that's your life. You're going to be living in America. And so in my head, I was like, you know, this could happen. This is going to be class. But 2-day tryout, it was very tough. It was intimidating. William Regal, absolute poker face, felt that he hated me because I just could not read him at all. And I remember there's this bit where we had to get in and do like rolls and stuff in the ring, and Matt Bloom was there, and so I get into the ring on the second day, and I was wearing these tight Under Armour tops, and he was like, I find it really weird that a guy in your shape has been here 2 days now and hasn't taken his top off. And I was kind of like, in my head, well, I wouldn't want to just get in the ring and like take my top off in front of all the other guys, because like what a dickhead move that would be. Do you know what I mean? To be like almost like I'm in better shape than all these guys, so you should be looking at me. Do you know what I mean? So did my rolls, and then Steve Carano, he took me to the side after, and he was like, the next time you get in the ring, you take your top off and you shout your name. And like in my head, I was like, what? I was like, really? Like, should I do this? But then again, I was like, if I don't do that, then they're going to see that I'm not listening to direction, or I'm not listening to what they want to say. So got in the ring, took my top off, shouted my name, did my rolls, and that was it. And it was just, it was a great experience. But again, didn't hear anything after that, and didn't get disheartened. I just kind of thought, maybe they just want to see if this is really what I want, whether I am just a TV guy, or what can I go do by myself. You know what I mean? And that kind of gave me the drive and determination to just put my head down. And I put it on my head, like the whole W thing. I was like, I'm just going to focus on learning and improving. And then I actually got emailed again at the start of this year by Regal, and basically saying that they're interested in stuff in bringing me into NXT UK. Oh. So yeah, there's just been a lot of not negotiating, but a lot of kind of chatting back and forth, especially over the past couple of weeks actually. So who knows what might happen in the future,
And NXT UK is like, I mean, it had buzz when it started, but ever since the takeover from Cardiff, has just like skyrocketed.
That show was phenomenal. That like every match had something different, and definitely I feel like put the UK brand on the map, because I feel like some people thought, they're just doing this to kind of try and dry up the UK scene, or they just don't want these guys to go off and wrestle anywhere else. Whereas after that takeover, it was like, no, this is a brand that can hang with every other brand on the main roster. Absolutely.
And I think it was the best wrestling show of that weekend, because obviously we had All Out, we had New Japan's Royal Quest, and I'm not being biased because I was there, but I generally did think that it really was the best. Like Volta versus Tyler Bate was just
insane.
That was another level of professional wrestling, really was.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you said that you didn't get disheartened with the outcome of the tryout, because so many people. If I was in that situation, like I would probably find myself like questioning like why I even do it. But going on from there, like you've had 2 exposures on national TV with 5 Star Wrestling and World of Sport.
Yeah.
You've wrestled like some big names in wrestling, and one of them I do want to touch on because of the endorsement that he gave you was he would have been Drew Galloway at the time, but Drew McIntyre gave you a big rub.
Yeah. That was, again, like I remember being at that WrestleMania weekend, and the match had already been announced at OTT that I was going to wrestle Drew, and then all of a sudden I'm at NXT and he comes out on the screen and I'm like, what? And then obviously he was re-signing with them, so I turned to my girlfriend, I was like, Carly, I'm supposed to wrestle him in a couple of weeks. Clearly, and that's not going to happen anymore, because obviously he's going back to NXT. So in my head, I thought that match was going to happen, but obviously OTT have quite a good relationship with WWE at the moment and stuff, and obviously did back then, and the match still happened. And again, I watched that match and I'm like, there's things that I should have done or could have done, and I wasn't. Again, that's another opportunity where in my head before that match I was like, I'm not ready for this opportunity to be in there with someone like that. But the more experience I've got and the more I've learned, I feel like the only way to, or the best way to get better, is being in there with people that are more experienced than you and that know what they're doing. And that was just such a learning experience. And then obviously the match finished and he got on the mic and sort of said the things that he said about me and stuff, and how I was the future and stuff, and how I was going to go on to be a star, and how the scene needed people like me and stuff. And I just, he didn't have to do that. He could have just shook my hand and that was the match. And
yeah, absolutely.
So the fact that he got on the mic and stuff and said those things was just awesome.
And he's somebody as well that obviously he got released from WWE for whatever reason. Maybe he wasn't the right guy at the right time, but then he went into the independents and just completely changed like his entire character, his physique, just everything, just became this absolute megastar of the indies. And then for him to like you said, after that match, give you the rub, then is there a better accolade than that?
I know. And then recently he did like a newspaper article when he was over for the UK tour, and again he like brought my name up and stuff again, saying that like I was going to be the next Irish star signed to WWE and stuff. So again, that was like 2 years after our match. So the fact that I'm still like in his head and stuff was, again, just even more motivating for me to just keep, pushing and keep grinding to improve.
You never know. Maybe he was the guy in Regal's ear saying to get you to NXT UK.
You never know, exactly.
So obviously you talked about OTT and that you've gone over there, a couple of times. I did look into it a little bit because I thought you were like a mainstay at OTT, but of course, obviously, most of the stuff you do is here in England. I noticed that you wrestled a little-known wrestler known as Puck over in OTT. I mean, I was like, I saw that and I was like, no way did he wrestle Puck. Like, how was that? Because I saw the highlights of that match and it looked really, really good. But
yeah, that was only a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, really?
That was maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. Yeah, because obviously moving to England, that's where obviously wrestling is huge, and OTT is obviously the biggest thing in Ireland. But yeah, I'm not one of them. Not that I'm not one of the main, but Joe has his not his priorities, but he's focused on like Jordan Devlin and like More Than Hype and Scotty Davis, and like absolutely right, because they're all incredibly talented guys and they're all like the next future stars of Irish wrestling, and that's proven by the fact that they're all like wrestling in England now as well. They're getting opportunities in England, and that's what I mean when I say like that I felt like I would have eventually broke into England eventually, but obviously the TV show helped everything speed up. But the fact that these Irish guys are now getting the opportunities in England as well just proves how much talent there is in Ireland, and that's obviously why OTT has gotten so big, because Joe was pushing all the Irish guys. But I feel like because I lived in England, I wasn't not that Joe's never forgotten about me or anything, but I'm just not like a priority where it's like, oh, Adam Maxted needs to be on the show. Do you know what I mean? So Joe kind of just brings me kind of back the odd time, like every other show or every couple of months, and to be fair to Joe, he's always given me like great opponents, like Drew, Pete Dunne and Pac, like Pac a couple of weeks ago. But that was again, just to be standing face to face with one of the best in the world was again just class and another learning experience again. And yeah, like you say, it's a match that I'm proud of, because I definitely feel like it was one of my best so far, definitely in my career.
And you got to think as well, 2 weeks later he was wrestling Kenny Omega in one of the biggest pay-per-views in like recent memory. So again, like there's times I've got to pinch myself where I'm sat on the sofa watching these live shows and I'm like, I was in the ring against that guy like a couple of weeks ago. Do you know what I mean? It's just crazy. I mean, it's amazing to think that in the short amount of time that you have been wrestling, because I always thought like in like 2, maybe 3 years of wrestling, like you're just doing like the local, promotions. Like I know you did Reach Wrestling down here in Plymouth. You wrestled Eddie Ryan, one of my favorites. So like doing those like kind of promotions. But then when I looked deeper into it and saw that you were wrestling like Drew McIntyre, Pete Dunne, Pac, all these guys, and even like the established guys of old, like Chris Masters, Carlito, it was kind of like, this guy's achieved a lot in so little time.
Yeah.
You've picked up titles as well, in a few places that you've been as well. So it's incredible to see, like, and some people might say, because of Love Island, that is why you are where you are, but that's not a bad thing. That opened these doors for you, and hell, take advantage of it.
Yeah, but I don't think, like, obviously, like I say, I'll be known for that, but I feel like I'm proud of the work that I've put in and how I've, like, not that I've developed quickly, but I feel like you say, in a short space of time, in a couple of years, the things that I've done and anything apart from WWE, anything pretty big happening in the UK wrestling, I've been a part of that. And I put it down to like how hard I've worked to improve. And, I don't, like, if people saw me, for example, now wrestling, I don't think I would be known as just the Love Island guy anymore, which is why, like I say, every time I'm in the ring, I don't know who's in the crowd. I don't know which fan is seeing me for the first time. So I take every match as serious as, the last one, because it's a new opportunity to prove to a fan that might not have seen me before that, I'm not just a reality TV star, that this is what I've wanted to do. I've put the work in, and I'm slowly starting to change. And I feel like I have actually changed people's perception of me, that I'm just known as like a professional wrestler now, and not just, I'm known as like a professional wrestler that did reality TV, not just like a reality TV star that wants to be a wrestler.
And I think that's the important thing there, that this wasn't a flash in the pan thing for you. Like, this is your passion, this is what you wanted to do, and you've managed to essentially put two fingers up to the people that were shitting on you for the whole Love Island thing, and you've proven that you can go. Like, you're getting all these opportunities. You're doing TV shows when they've been available. You've done WWE tryouts. You're potentially on NXT UK's radar. Like, you have a massive future ahead of you. So, like, screw what everybody else thinks.
It just, like I said, it just motivates me even more to, like, just not that I would say, like, fuck you, or sorry for swearing, but, like, whatever, to people like that. But I'm just kind of, like, I read comments and things, and I'm like, you know what? Okay, that's fine. And it, like, even when I'm in the gym, it motivates me to push through those extra reps, because I'm like, I've got haters, I've got people, so I'm going to look as good as I can in the ring. And every time I'm in the ring, I there's times I remember those comments and things, and it just pushes me to improve every time, and to shut people up and change people's opinions of me. But like I said, everyone's entitled to their opinion. I'm never going to retaliate on social media. If someone says something negative about me, I will just read it and say, okay, that's someone's opinion, but I will work harder to, be better.
And this is the thing as well. I'd love to see these people doing springboard drop kicks like you're smashing out at the moment. I didn't even know exactly stuff like that. That blew me away.
It's funny how the wrestling fans are the ones that probably couldn't do 10 push-ups, but they're the ones that want to give me critique on what I'm doing in the ring, which even one wrestling training session, I'd love to say, okay, you want to say that about me? Perfectly fine, not a problem. Now come, you do one training session with Rampage, and I'll sit and comment on your performance, and we'll see what happens. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I feel like they would soon shut up, and that's the problem with obviously I love wrestling, and fans are fans, and fans are what makes the sport and everything amazing. But it just almost seems now that people want to go out of their way to sit and watch your match, and they don't want to sit and enjoy it. They're almost sitting waiting to see you mess something up or see something go wrong. Do you know what I mean? So that they can get straight on the Twitter and say, oh, this didn't go well, or this wasn't, or this match, I didn't enjoy this match because they didn't do a reverse Rana on the apron and no sell it. And do you know what I mean? But that's just the way the world is now. Everyone thinks because of social media that their opinion matters, and social media has so many advantages to, help people become stars or use it to help get your name out there. But it also has a lot of negatives. So, to anyone listening that, struggles with, stuff on social media, people are going to have their opinion, and the best thing is just not to ignore it, and just focus, stay in your own lane, and focus on what makes you happy in life, and just focus on doing you.
And that's unfortunately where we are in 2019. It's the power of the keyboard. Everybody has access to one, whether it be the phones or an actual physical keyboard, and away they go. They can say whatever they want, and nobody can do a thing about it. Which
exactly,
it is what it is. But like you said, just ignore it, stay in your lane, rise above it, and screw them.
Exactly.
So away from wrestling, as we're starting to wind down here, like what do you kind of do to? And I'm not the gym. That doesn't count. Like, what do you do like for fun in your spare time? I'm not saying the gym's not fun, but to me it's not fun because I'm just a blob. But
I think you mentioned this, but I play a lot of FIFA.
Hell yes.
Like legit. I mean, I spend hours on FIFA daily. My girlfriend will tell you that I will get in from the gym, and before I've even done any housework, whatever, like you can hear the beep on the PlayStation because I'm back to FIFA. Like, for example, the demo came out yesterday for FIFA 20.
I saw that you downloaded that, yeah.
I was like, ugh, but obviously the motivated person that I am, I was like, okay, gym first. But as soon as I got home, it was straight onto that demo. Do you know what I mean?
Is it
good? It is good, but you can only play as like 6 teams in the demo, whereas I got an email a couple of weeks ago with this code, which allowed me to pretty much play like career mode and stuff. It was like FIFA better or something. And it was only active for like 10 days, and then it just deletes off your PlayStation. But I was able to play like the Ultra mode, and you can customize your manager and everything. So there's a lot more that you can do this year, and I'm a massive geek for like graphics. So there's players that I knew didn't look good in FIFA 19. So I went to the transfer hub, clicked on their names, and I was popping, to myself if their graphics were good. I was like, yes. But yeah, I live a pretty easy life. Like, I just love going to the gym, wrestling, and playing FIFA.
And I'm a big FIFA geek as well, and I was actually gonna step away from FIFA this year because I think I've had every FIFA since like 2011 or something like that, and then just like on and off before that. But I was just like, nah, this is the year that I finally don't get it. And the closer we get to release day, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get it. It's just I think it's that conversation every single year that I have with myself that no, this is the year that I turn FIFA away. They are not having my money. 2 weeks later, I'm holding the disc in my hand. I'm like, here we go again. And then hours go by.
The countdown to FIFA is literally like being a kid at Christmas again for me, like counting down the days. I get that same feeling.
It's bigger than transfer deadline day. It really is.
Yeah, I've got it in my calendar, like FIFA 20 released. Do you know what I mean? That's how much I'm counting down the days.
So last question before I let you go. Who, out of everybody who's active in the world of wrestling, like who is your dream match right now?
Would have to be Randy Orton.
Oh, that's an interesting choice. I wasn't expecting that.
He is probably up there in my top 3 favorites because I just think Randy's the man. You know, you look at the career he's had and what he's done and how young he started, and almost you talk about pressure and things, like he was 24 and being thrown into main event matches against Chris Benoit and people, and you just see how good he was back then and how long of a career he's had and how he's kept himself interesting. And again, you watch a lot of his matches and there's times where he doesn't really do that much, but that's the sort of the art and the magic of what he can do in the ring. The fact that every match he does, he makes it seem different, even though he's really not doing anything that different. He's kind of got his own set of moves that he just sticks to, and yet he'll adapt to every type of opponent, you know, no matter on their size and stuff. And obviously, Eddie Guerrero is, I think, the best of all time because of just, again, heel face, what he could do against any type of opponent, his charisma. You know, I just think he's phenomenal. But for me, a dream match, who, you know, someone who's still active would be Randy Orton, definitely.
And people give him a lot of hate for, you know, like you said, those slow moments in the matches where not much is going on. But
yeah,
the people are missing out on the fact that there's a story being told when he's doing this kind of stuff. There's a reason that he's being slow. There's a reason he's being methodical, and people just kind of don't see that. I don't know if that's just because I'm like hardcore into wrestling and like there's more casual people that go, right, this is boring. Like we're getting headlocks, chin locks, and, you know, slow plodding pace. But I think for people like yourself who's in the industry, and for people like me who, you know, passion is watching wrestling and, you know, being a part of it, you know, even just like in the podcasting sense, I can see that there's a story being told. And like I'm with you. I absolutely love Randy Orton. Any t-shirt that comes out, I get it. Any match that comes on, I'm watching it. Like I stan Orton.
If you think of, you know, Dustin Rhodes against Cody recently, like that match was so, I was so emotionally invested in that match. And again, you watch it back and they didn't do any crazy spots. It was just, they told a story, which I think wrestling should be. That's what the art of it, like taking the crowd on a journey where they're so invested that they like literally just can't believe what's happening. Whereas it just seems like the style of wrestling today is just like spot after spot after spot. And there's like, it's phenomenal to watch and phenomenal, you know, the fact that, you know, wrestlers these days are so athletic and stuff, but there's just no story. Like there's so many like wasted moments and things in matches because people just want to get to the next spot, or they want to stay super strong, or they don't want to make anything seem like it's hurting them. Whereas, you know, you look at like Ricky Steamboat and stuff back in the day, or like Sting as a babyface, like those matches, those guys are, you know, you're so behind them and so sympathetic of them, and you want to see, you know, the heel, the bad guy, get their ass kicked by the guys like that. Whereas there's almost matches where it's just like a video game where it's two people and you don't really care who wins the match, but you just want to enjoy it. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's just like no story. There's like a bit of magic, I feel like, is lost in that.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, not that there's anything wrong with like spot fests and stuff, because, you know, sometimes, you know, an occasion calls for it, and, you know, given the talent of the people in the ring, like you kind of expect it. But it's like, yeah, like you said, it's kind of a lost art form now, like the storytelling side of wrestling. So when you do actually see it now, like it kind of makes you take notice. You know, like you said with Dustin and Cody. I remember watching that and going, oh my God, like I don't care if this is the worst match like I've ever seen. Like the story being told right now is incredible. So everything else just went out the window in my head. Like I was like, I don't care if this is terrible. Like this, I'm enjoying the absolute hell of it. And like you said, I'm emotionally invested in it, and that's key, I think, for a lot of people enjoying wrestling now. Just get emotionally invested in it, and you cannot go wrong.
Absolutely.
We'll end it there because I've kept you long enough, and I'm sure you're a very busy man. Maybe you want to crack on the FIFA 20 demo again.
You know it.
But no, thank you very much for coming on. I do really appreciate that.
No problem. Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Yeah, and good luck with the NXT UK side of things. If you get to NXT UK, I am calling on you and I'm dragging you back on here, no matter what.
Not a problem. No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, dude. Thank you.
So there we go. That was the first interview that I've done with a wrestler for this show, and I can tell you it certainly won't be the last. I have a few more lined up, a few more in the pipeline. I did really enjoy that, so I hope you guys enjoyed it too, and kind of can see where he is now, like kind of moving away from that reality TV, spotlight, the Love Island fame. Like I do think he's come out as, a genuine, a genuinely great professional wrestler. Like he is very, very good, considering he's done it for, so little time, like 3 years, and he's wrestled some, high profile matches to this point. And with NXT UK, knocking on the door, who knows? You might get some more exposure to Flex in the next couple of months, in the next year. Exciting stuff. Really is exciting stuff. Now, usually I would do a Q&A at this point, but yeah, I haven't. I did put the tweet out to ask for questions. So yeah, do you actually get an episode that is sub 2 hours today? Which, hasn't been the case for, a little while, I don't think, which I'm happy with that. Sometimes it's nice to go short. If your attention spans, at least, my attention span is absolutely terrible. Like I've said before, on previous shows, I can't sit through, a 3.5 hour podcast. I struggle. I really do struggle. So I can imagine it's the same for you guys, unless you're Mags, who provided the raw voice clip. He listens to his podcast on 3 times speed. Now, I don't know if anybody's listened to anything on 3 times speed, but it's impossible. I don't know how he does it. It's a talent. It is a genuine talent. Wherever you're listening to this on right now, just like rewind about a minute, after the chat, and just speed it up to 3 times and get back to this point, and you'll go, I have no idea. Despite the fact that you just listened to all the stuff that I've just said on 3 times speed, you'll forget it all, and you go, I have no idea what he just said. It's ridiculous. I don't know how he does it. But people like him, they can sit through like 4-hour podcasts and they'd be fine. But yeah, nobody is as strange as Mags for doing that. It's bizarre. It really is. But there you go. That is all we have time for today. Episode 20. Like, I honestly, didn't think I would ever get to this point. So I'm pretty chuffed. I'm pretty chuffed that I've got, to the big 2-0, and I've got a 25th, landmark episode coming up as well. So it's all going on. It's all going on, and then the 30th as well at some point. But that's further down the line. We won't think about that just yet. But as I always say, I'm very, very grateful for anybody that listens to this show. It does genuinely mean more than the fact that somebody is taking the time out of their day to listen to me just talk about wrestling. Like, it really boils down to that. I'm just talking to a microphone about wrestling, and people are taking time out of their day to listen to me do exactly that. So thank you very much for those of you that do. And for those that do listen, why don't you submit a cheeky 5-star review on iTunes, or subscribe or follow if you're listening through Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your podcast. We are pretty much available everywhere now. Recently we got onto iHeartRadio, so more or less everywhere now. So if you head onto my social medias on Twitter and Instagram, my link tree is there, and that's all my links to all my social medias and all the podcast directories that this is featured on. So it could not be more accessible. It really couldn't. Stand by for Monday when the new series of the DOW Draft That series debuts. That's a lot of fun. I've already recorded it. I'm very, very proud of it. So go and check that out. It's good. I don't mean to blow smoke up my ass, but it is good. So go and check that out. Fan art of the week, that will drop on Friday, as always, as part of the SLTD wrestling website, who have just launched a wrestling hub as well for content creators. So if you're looking to have all your content and all your good stuff in one place, the wrestling hub is for you over at SLTD. Just go over to the website, all the information is on there, and just fill out the form to declare your interest, and the man behind the scenes will get back to you, and you'll start a pretty good relationship with a really good team like Greg Burke, who runs SLTD. Great guy. He'll do a lot to really help you out as content creators. So just bear that in mind. If you need that little bit of a push, you want somewhere to host all your stuff with no hassle, you got an easy place to promote yourself, this wrestling hub is for you, so go check that out as well. But there you go, those are the plugs out of the way, and all I have to say is, again, thank you for listening, and I'll see you on Monday for the Draft That series. The DOW Power Rankings window is also open. Get your rankings in right now. You have until Sunday to do that. So enjoy. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you next time.